Today I want to give an overview of the notorious manga Dragon Ball, starting in 1985, almost as old as I am, published in Weekly Shonen Jump for a good 11 years, ending in 1995. It is Akira Toriyama's magnum opus and one of the most popular shonen series of all time, the grandfather of modern action shonen, you would say. Most manga and anime fans have read, watched, or heard of Dragon Ball to some extent. It definitely defined a genre that is action shonen. I mainly want to talk about the manga today, and as always, there'll be no spoilers, but I will be discussing general plot points. Now, the original Japanese run was 42 volumes, but I will only be going through the first 16 volumes, which we in the West call Dragon Ball. Now, I quickly want to go over the volume design, which is all red, which I'm not a big fan of, not my favorite color, but I am a fan of the yellow text, which is nice. This was the standard Jump manga front cover for the early 2000s manga, anything out of Japan really. Most series were laid out like this. You had the number in the corner, you have the waxing crescent, you have the little thick bar at the bottom here, you got obviously the author in the corner, title at the top, sometimes it was at the bottom, and then you got the illustration in the middle. Not often is it squared off like this. Dragon Ball uses it quite often. I know One Piece and Bobobo also have it squared off, but sometimes they use more of a full art. I know Bleach and Prince of Tennis also use full art on their front covers as well. And if we turn it over, we just have a illustration of Goku on the back. Obviously changes for every volume, a little blurb here. But one of the most interesting features of this is the spine. If you line up all 16 volumes, it has a nice design of Shenlong with the Dragon Balls, and then it has Goku and the other supporting cast. Now, the story is split into 9 sagas. However, I've kind of reduced that to 6, with the first 2 volumes introducing us to Goku, a happy-go-lucky protagonist who is adept at fighting. He lives far from civilization in a forest and knows not much outside of training, hunting, and eating. So he's pretty naive about the rest of the world. We're also introduced to Bulma, who is an intelligent young girl, but extremely vain. And she is actually the one searching for the 7 Dragon Balls, which once gathered will grant you any one wish. She persuades Goku to join her in her quest, initially as a selfish need for protection. However, the two soon grow pretty close. Points of interest in these 2 volumes pop up and conclude pretty quickly within a chapter or 2, be it returning a turtle back to water or saving a village from a shape-shifting pig. But the search for the Dragon Balls flows pretty seamlessly throughout these 2 volumes. Dragon Ball today is known as an action shonen series, but there's not a lot of conflict in the beginning. In fact, it's more of a comedy gag manga initially, though a lot of the gags come from the expense of Bulma being abused, mainly through her body or panties, or lack of. If there is any fighting, it's normally 1 or 2 pages long and mostly hand-to-hand combat, but Goku does tend to use his Nuobon stick every so often. It's funny that this saga is called the Pilaf saga, which is strange because he only appears for 5 chapters towards the end of volume 1. He has really no part in the first volume at all. After locating the Dragon Balls, Goku wishes to train with Muten Roshi, or Master Roshi, who we met in the first volume. We're also introduced to Krillin, who also wants to train under the Great Roshi. Here the genre switches to a more traditional action shonen, though there's still a lot of gags thrown in. And after a fair bit of training, we're introduced to the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai, the strongest under the heavens, although it does have many names depending if you're reading it or watching the dub or checking up the information online. There is a lot of fighting, as you expect from a martial arts tournament, but the humour still stands. Some interesting fights ensue. Even the final bout, which has some of the best choreographed fight scenes, includes moments of comedic relief. The next 4 volumes include the Red Ribbon Army, General Blue, Commander Red, and Fortune Teller Baba sagas. I've combined these 4 together because collectively they make up another Dragon Ball hunting quest. Just like the first 2 volumes, Goku wishes to obtain the 4-star Dragon Ball, which is his grandpa's memento. This time, however, an organization known as the Red Ribbon Army are also after a wish. They get in Goku's way a lot and cause a lot of trouble for anyone that is anywhere close to a Dragon Ball. What I like about these volumes is the contrast between Goku, a small child, and the Red Ribbon Army, who are mostly male adults and far greater in size than Goku. The army as a whole clearly mimics the popular 80s action hero you'd see in movies such as Commando, Alien, Cobra, and one of the characters, Full Metal Jacket, is clearly meant to be the Terminator, or a carbon copy of him. We see a load of strong looking male and female characters, the complete opposite to Goku, who looks really small and weak. And I guess that's what Toriyama was going for. Don't look down on my manga, and kind of breaking the conventions of big man equals strong. Goku fights a lot on his own during these volumes, and again, the action shonen side really kicks it up a notch with fight after fight, and the gags kind of take a bit of a back seat, though the gag itself may just be, Monkey Boy trying to take down a whole army on his own. And although it's 4 sagas, this Dragon Ball section is the longest running arc, I guess you could call it, in the series. And after that, we get a small time skip and we enter another tournament arc, the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai tournament. Much like the first one, but far more exciting. You get flashier moves, you get power beams, flying, and duplication techniques are all introduced. There's several pages where there's just fighting panels, which you don't really see all that often. A lot of the time, it's normally a panel or two, one big, massive explosion or power move. But in this, you get panel after panel, and sometimes page after page of just combat of fist to fist martial art action. And it gets really crazy at times, and we see a few new long-standing characters for the rest of the series in here as well. And shortly after this, we are introduced to who I consider our first real antagonist, the King Piccolo saga, obviously introducing us to Piccolo, who is again looking for the Dragon Balls, and naturally Goku has to stop him. But the main driving force behind this is that Piccolo is actually killing people off left, right and center. Piccolo is so much stronger than any other force that we've seen so far, and will do pretty much anything for world domination. And at this point in the series, the gags again kind of trail off. There's hardly any at all. It's just pure action and training and planning for the big fight against Piccolo. And at the end, we have another time skip, and this leads us perfectly into the last 2 volumes, which is the final tournament arc, the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai tournament. The threat of Piccolo still stands and it looms, and as always, it's down to Goku again to take him down. This time we have a more significant time skip. As you can see from Goku, he's actually aged quite a bit. And as we've seen in the past, bigger boy doesn't necessarily mean bigger power, but in this instance, the little boy was pretty strong, so only bigger Goku can be only stronger, really. The series ends on a really positive note, and it gives you a suggestion that further continuation, which we know obviously will happen because we then get 26 episodes of Dragon Ball Z. And that is all the sagas of Dragon Ball, though I've reduced them down to 6. I just want to talk about the artwork for a moment, and depending on how you look at it, you get some color pages, but obviously, as you know, manga always comes in black and white. So unfortunately, it deteriorates the quality of the images slightly, and especially in volume 1, because surprisingly, maybe it was different back in the 80s and early 90s, but you get sometimes chapters after chapter that is just in color, and it does, like I said, dull the imagery. But it's not a big deal because overall the art is very nice, and if you do want to see the full thing in color, they do sell Dragon Ball full color editions. Now, the character designs themselves are very simplistic, with at least one outstanding feature for most of the characters. Goku's hair, for example, or I guess you could say his tail. Kuririn's burns on his forehead, and you got Master Roshi's glasses. All the main characters and even the secondary and tertiary characters are different shapes and sizes, making it really easy to distinguish who you're looking at. And because Goku is so much smaller at the beginning of the series than everybody else, we're left with a lot of full shot and mid shot panels, and only in the action scenes do we get any form of, perspective shots or action dynamic shots. But even they are pretty simple by today's standards. Now, I keep saying simple, but I don't mean that in a negative way. I think the paneling complements the pacing of the story very well, and making it an easy reading experience and clarity for what you're seeing. Now, no manga series is perfect, so I just want to mention a couple of issues that I had, and they're not big issues per se. The first one is the perversion quickly cooled off in the early volumes, but the perviness is still sprinkled here and there throughout the series. I mean, there's no shortage in mangaka objectifying female characters in manga, and I like boobs and butts as much as the next dude, but I don't think you'd get away with this level of fan service in today's Shonen Jump. And I know it can tarnish some characters, but I think Bulma does a pretty good job to not always be the damsel in distress, because she is very intelligent. She can be quite funny at times as well. But like I said, it dies off pretty quickly and it's only sprinkled here and there. The other small issue I have are the Dragon Balls themselves, which grant any wish, which is completely OP. And so far, there's been no limitations to the wish, which means almost no consequence for any of the characters' actions. At the end of the saga where the Dragon Balls have been used, the bad guy normally defeated, the wish is used to rectify any damage that they caused. So nothing has really changed before the incident other than Goku getting a little bit stronger and obtaining some new friends, which I guess does allow for some character development and plot points. But then again, it's a very basic story of going from Dragon Ball hunting to tournament arc, then Dragon Ball hunting again to another tournament arc, and it repeats itself once again. But in conclusion, I think this is a great shonen action adventure series. It doesn't have an in-depth or overarching story like modern shonen, but I think that shows just how far the genre itself has evolved. I think the characters in this are so charming. Goku can be pretty wholesome at times, and the comedy is genuinely entertaining, bar Bulma's exploitations. It's just a feel-good read, and it has some really cool and hype action sequences. One of the great things about being an older manga and anime fan is hearing the opinions of the new generation or just newer fans of a series. Earlier this year, I found Captain Ryan's manga channel, and it's refreshing to hear the opinion of someone who's younger and who doesn't actually have any nostalgic ties to the series. Because sometimes I feel like I enjoy a series, or I say a series is great, just because of my nostalgic connection to it. I'm not very good at putting my emotions into words, but it's nice to know that people are still finding Dragon Ball and enjoying it just as much as I did when I was younger. I've read Dragon Ball now twice, I think, and I've watched it once, and I've enjoyed it every single time. I definitely read it like most people or looked into it after experiencing Dragon Ball Z, but it was just a refreshing take, and I think it still stands. Maybe not if you're looking for a complex story with, in-depth character development. There's not really a lot of that. Characters do grow, but it gets very samey. And unfortunately, spoilers, it does get slightly more samey with Dragon Ball Z. I'll bet the story amplifies itself a little bit, but overall it's pretty much rinse and repeat the same process. But like I said, I still think it holds up, and I think everybody should definitely give it a chance. And if you don't enjoy it after the first, maybe volume 4 or 5, which is the end of the tournament, I think, it's definitely not one for you if you're not enjoying it at that point. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.